Welcome to the Shelby and Hillary Show with today's topic, the Chrysalids. Hey guys, so today we're going to be discussing some of the topics from the book The Chrysalids by John Wyndham. What do you think it would be like to have your whole religious life planned out for you before you were born? Well, that's what it's like for the main character, David, of this novel. For those of you who haven't read the book, here's a quick outline. The Chrysalids is set a couple thousand years from now, right after a nuclear bomb. The people who survived the nuclear bomb have to deal with rebuilding their lands and society.
Their main goal is to make their new world the same as it used to be before the nuclear bomb. They believe that God destroyed the world because there are so many sinful people in it, so kind of like Noah's Ark.
The new people are still dealing with radiation changes from the nuclear bomb. They also believe that there is a true image of God, and if someone or something doesn't fit that true image, then they are dishonoring God.
If they were dishonoring God, they would be exiled into the fringes. The fringe is a place out of the community where all the deviants get sent to. The deviants are the people who don't fit the true image.
All of the norms live by this quote: only the true image of God is man. Not all of them survive because there is little food and shelter in the wasteland. In their religion, you have to follow a strict set of guidelines. Your body image must be the correct size and height.
Women must wear dresses with a cross embroidered on their chest. The main character in this book, David, discovers that his friend Sophie is a deviant. Her deformity is that she has 6 toes. David thinks nothing of this until someone else finds out. Sophie gets caught by the inspectors and ends up being exiled into the fringes.
David then discovers that he is a deviant as well. He has the ability to send thought shapes to other thought shape readers. This novel is an action-packed novel that really makes you think about your life today.
Here's a question for you viewers out there. Can you imagine out of all the 3,400 religious branches in the world, only this one survived and you had to follow it, no questions asked? Now, you may also wonder, where did they start this religion, where they can only look a certain way and be so tall?
There are only a few books that survived the nuclear war. The main books were the Bible and Nicholson's Repentances. More often, they turned to the Nicholson's Repentances because it was a guideline to living a good Christian life.
This included all the ideas on the true image. Don't forget to remember that Nicholson's Repentance book came out after the nuclear bomb had already hit them, and they were trying to restart civilization. Everything had some form of deviation.
There was absurd-looking animals, trees, and even people. It would have been extremely frightening. The fear is why people were so readily willing to accept a book such as the Nicholson's Repentances. When people saw that the Nicholson's Repentances book was a way to get everything back to the way they thought was normal.
The easiest thing for people to do was to start following the guidelines of this book. This all happened hundreds of years before the setting of the Chrysalids. By the time David's generation came around, the way of living was very much unrefuted.
If you were a deviant, you were exiled into the fringes. If you were a norm, you simply lived the way everyone else lived. When crops didn't turn out exactly the way they were supposed to, the whole crop would have to get burned.
For example, if your corn yielded too high, instead of being thankful for having such a bountiful crop, the crop would be ordered to be destroyed, and the people of Waughnock were very concerned of keeping the genes unmutated.
The same laws applied to animals. If their hair was too short or anything out of the ordinary, they'd be burned as well. In fact, a hairless cat would have to get destroyed even though such a breed exists.
Their intentions were good, but because they wanted to restore the world as it was, unfortunately, their religious belief forced them to always remain the same.
Now you may be thinking, this couldn't possibly happen to us today. Well, in Japan, as we speak, there's people being tortured by their own families to get them to change their religion that they freely chose. Since 1966 and upright to present day, there are more than 4,000 members of the Unification Church of Japan that have been illegally captured by their own families and deprogrammers.
There are only a few people who managed to escape their captors so far, and when they did, they reported they used prison-like conditions and wouldn't let them communicate with the outside world, all in a large effort to try to make the believer change his or her faith.
So you all may be thinking, oh yeah, no big deal. This is just one example in just one country. Can you imagine being in church during a religious ceremonies when suicide bombers come in and kill half of the congregation?
In 2004, Al-Qaeda suicide bombers laid siege to Our Lady of Salvation Catholic Church in Baghdad during a Sunday Mass while 120 local Catholics were worshiping inside. This is only one of the latest of a series of direct attacks on Iraqi churches.
In Iraq, you need to remember, they don't have a government to help them with these problems. The best for all the Iraq Christians to do is to flee, because there are no serious actions being able taken to help them.
You're probably all thinking, well, Canada's a free country, no big deal. None of this will ever happen to us. Let's look back to about 1874, when all the Aboriginal children from ages 16 to 15 years old were forcibly removed from their families. The First Nations families were threatened at gunpoint.
Once the children were in residential schools, they usually couldn't have any contact with their parents for up to 10 months at a time because of the distance from their home communities and their schools. But the children sometimes weren't able to contact their families for years.
The Indian agent, along with many nuns and priests, described this process as killing the Indian in the child. These children couldn't speak their language or practice their religion.
The children were forbidden to practice their sacred rituals and instead were taught how to pray to a Christian God. You may think that this problem happened in Canada's past, but it wasn't up until 1996 that there was a residential school in the area that is now known as the Horizon School Division.
We have just given you 3 examples where people didn't have the choice of their religion, similar to the novel. We have just received some emails from our viewers on how they would feel if their religious freedom was taken away from them.
Jamie from New Orleans says, I would feel really bad because I would feel like I couldn't worship the God that I thought was best or even at all. I don't think even if you force people to convert that they truly would feel in their heart. But if I was forced to, I wouldn't. I wouldn't take whatever punishment, even death for my faith. Jesus gave up his life for me, and it would be the least I could do in repayment. I would stand up for God, and I know I would be rewarded in heaven.
Dana from Sudbury, Ontario says, I think that if my freedom of religion was taken away, it would be like cutting off my air supply. I'd feel a mix of emotions, everything from hopelessness to despair. But even with my religion gone, I still have God on my side. I know that that will never change. So even though I'd feel cheated, hurt, upset, and despondent, I think I'd end up being okay because no matter what happens, I still have a relationship with the one person that will never leave my side.
And our last message is from Greg from Calgary, Alberta. He says, if my freedom was taken away, I would definitely have to look at what they mean by it being taken away. But I think that if my freedom to choose what I believe, what church to be, and what church to attend was prohibited, I'd be very offended and mad that my freedom was taken away. I feel very strongly about my religion because it is a part of me, a part of my family, and a part of my heritage. I was born into the church, raised in the church, and have grown to be a part of the church. If it was ever taken away, I think I would still practice my beliefs, though people would try and stop me.
Thanks for your emails, guys.
What can we as high school students do? You can sign a petition. There are many petitions online. A favorite of ours is the Care2 petition site. The website address is www.thepetitionsite.com. So click on the link below and sign the petition for religious freedom.
It's a small way to make your voice heard. A wise man once said, without religious freedom, there's no freedom at all.
Thanks for watching the Shelby and Hillary Show, everyone.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel.